Also part of that. Although I have to admit, a lot of what we do when it comes to anti-bullying is helping either kids or anybody else with sort of Star Wars related issues, because it is after all Star Wars stuff. But I don't think we've ever kind of tried to push people into a certain direction. Having said that, I think when some people try to make a point that, yeah, but why can that not be done under the 501st banner? And I think partly there is because what the 501st is trying to do is that the 501st only does the villainous kind of characters that have representation in either a movie or a video game or any sort of officially licensed graphical representation of that character. So that would fall under the 501st kind of category or banner. But we will be totally opposed to either negatively commenting on anybody's costume, negatively, trying to put anybody down because the costume isn't up to a certain standard or isn't up to, gender bending or whatever. I don't think there's any place for that in cosplay. And 501st is part of cosplay. But I think then there is a question of what falls under cosplay and what falls under 501st. And I think we do have our own rules, and we like to maintain that. Having said that, we would not like that, or we would never ever talk negatively about anybody else's costume. So I think we really enjoy cosplaying, and we really enjoy seeing all the other cosplays out there that are not Star Wars related. And think about. I don't know how many years ago it was before I actually found out about the 501st. I said I would never ever wear a costume. Jeez, would you? I was actually around Halloween, and my girlfriend wanted to go to a Halloween party. And she said, would you wear a costume? I said, no, I would never ever wear a costume.
Jack is now leaving the room, I'm sorry. Thank you, Captain Jack. Talk about funny cosplay. There's a magic word that works across all cosplay, and that's this wonderful word called canon. And in a way, it's quite an interesting word in that one wants to be canon, one wants to make sure that they are part of the film, the saga, whatever. But in every organization, whether it's an intellectual, scholastic, religious, whatever organization, there are always going to be people who have to be just a little bit earlier than thou. And just that my costume is just a little bit more patterned than your costume. But as long as it doesn't get out of hand, Jack, take it easy, kiddo. Chill out the sailing ship. As long as it doesn't get out of hand, and as Patrick said, as long as we all understand, and certainly in the 501st we do, that bullying is just not an acceptable activity in any form, any shape, any time, anywhere.
Actually, on that, I actually did say that a lot of the sort of campaigns and anti-bullying kind of campaigns that we get involved in our Star Wars way actually was quite wrong. Actually, I remember. I think it was late last year when the 501st was actually contacted by, I can't remember the exact details of the story, was a US-based kind of story, a particular boy, I can't remember the exact age, and he was mad into My Little Pony. And he got bullied because, as a little boy, you can't be into My Little Pony. So as a 501st organization, we actually really got behind that boy and said, listen, we kind of understand that little boy because he is really passionate about My Little Pony. We are about Star Wars. And just because somebody is passionate about something that, is normally not associated with a certain gender or a certain age or whatever it may be, that should not justify bullying at all. So we got really behind that, and we sent out just a lot of email messages, with our own stories of how we went to bullying some of us did and stuff like that. And that little boy just completely lit up and was so happy that worldwide he suddenly had 6,800 friends. So it's not always just my Star Wars.
No.
Okay.
But you guys must have some ideas and some thoughts about this. Come on, what do you say? Yes!
There we go.
There she is. There she is.
I've only got these teeny tiny legs for me now.
I'd just like to say that sitting here and listening to you talk about equality across all the gender spectrum for ages, regardless of what they like, what they look like, what they want to do, their skill level, whatever. The fact that you support so strongly for just equality and everything, it's really, really lovely to hear it being said, when usually people just have to think it because they never get to see people actually speaking out about things, about activism in social situations and the like. And usually we all sit in the dark and we don't get the chances to talk about these things. And the fact that here at this panel, at this convention, you are talking about this and bringing it up to this audience of some of who are adults, some of who are teenagers like myself, some of whom are actually younger kids. It's a really, really good thing, and I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. And I think that's a very valid point. I think it should be more than just words. It should be something that that you should show in your actions. And I think as our own club, we're trying to do that. I know that I speak from our experience with the Fighting on the First, but there's a lot of other clubs out there that are completely not Star Wars related that do very much the same thing. So it's not just us, that kind of claim that there's a lot of other clubs out there. So I think it's looking well for the cosplay community. It does get a lot of media attention these days. I think if you would think back about 10, 15, 20 years ago, cosplay was not something that would be getting the same amount of media attention as it is getting these days. That's good, that's bad. There's pros and cons to it, but I think it does really help share a message. And I do think it's very important that people from a very young age get involved with that and hear that sort of thinking and hear those words and see adults actually implementing it, because it is about implementing it, it is not just about words.
I would just like to say thanks. In first year of my secondary school, I used to pretend that I didn't like any of this. Sorry, I didn't like any of this. And then I read on the forums how you help someone. I think it was your man. I think it was your man that you were just speaking about.
Okay, yeah.
And it lifted me up and inspired me to make this costume and just show off who I am.
Which is great, by the way.
I'd just like to say thanks.
And by the way, if you look at that costume, he made that in 3 weeks. That is just amazing.
I just want to make one comment, which is just about what that girl was saying earlier. It is a topic that's never discussed, and I'm so glad that you brought it up today, because it's something that's never discussed at all. And we have so much discrimination in the world anyway. We should have the freedom in comics and in films and in our geekdom that is Comic Con to be able to express ourselves whatever way we want to. So I think if you're getting bullied for being in the world that you're in already, why should you be in your passion also bullied? It makes no sense to me at all. If you're comfortable in what you're wearing, if you're comfortable in what you're passionate about, it shouldn't matter what you look like, your skin color, your weight, your gender. What you feel comfortable in is who you are, and that should be the only thing that matters.
Okay, if that's all we have.
Well, there's one little story I'll tell you. About 6 months after Star Wars opened, in the acting community I was talking about, there was an actor called Dick Wilson. And his daughter had a birthday, and he threw a birthday party. for all of the North American actors in town. And I turned up, and while I was at this party, this young, slender, dark-haired guy came up to me and said, "Hi, Chris." And I said, "Hi." And he said, "I haven't seen you since we worked together." Now, I'm terrible with names. I'm really, really awful with names, but I'm pretty good with faces. And I looked at this kid, and I thought, I had to admit, I'm sorry, look, I'm really, really sorry, but you say we work together. He said, "Yes, we were on a very big film together." And I said, "I'm really sorry, I just can't remember you. Who are you?" And he said, "Well, my name's Anthony Daniels." And Anthony went to all the promotional things, all the parties, all the receptions that Garrison and that all of the other stars, you know, Peter Mayhew and Kenny and David. And when you think about it, everybody knew what Han Solo looked like. Everybody knew what Leia looked like and Luke looked like. Everybody could pretty much work out who Kenny was playing. And at 7'2", Peter Mayhew was a sure fit for Chewbacca. And at that point in time, I don't know if you know that Dave Prowse was the UK heavyweight weightlifting champion and also the runner-up for Mr. Universe. So he was pretty buff, and at 6'7", he was a good-looking guy. But nobody knew who Anthony Daniels was. And he would be at these parties and nobody introduced him. So the poor guy went out to a company in London and he had a gazillion, literally a gazillion matchboxes, little matchbooks printed out in red. The matchbooks were red and in gold it said, "C-3PO is here." And he would leave them at parties. And I thought, here's a guy who created an absolutely unique and wonderful and lovable character. And we never, never, never saw his face. A lot of people were putting Anthony Daniels down because he got cross at the fact that he wasn't recognized. And he got cross at people for not recognizing what he had achieved. And yet when you stop and think of the characters that were all the way through the saga, the ones that really, really stick out when you think of Chewbacca and that wonderful gesture, "If I do it, you'll know." That's Peter Mayhew, behind the mask. You never saw his face, you never knew what he was like, but you know what Chewbacca's like. And C-3PO, you never saw his face, but you know what he's like. You know what his personality is. You know how he reacts to things, and that's because of the actor, Anthony Daniels. Great people. Anyway, we can all be an Anthony Daniels. Don't need to hide behind a mask. Thank you all very much.
Yeah, thanks, guys.